Welcome, fellow gamers. Quick disclaimer before I start, this is not meant to be a guide. This is meant to be a rather rough overview of the campaign I had, where I also compare 5th Monarchist from Vanilla to End Times from Europa Expanded. The video is split into two parts. The first part I just show the timeline and what map changes happened and where I conquered generally. And the second is just my personal notes about the run and some random things I have to say about it, or which I found kind of funny because this was also my first time playing Europa Expanded. Without further ado, roll the clip. As you could see, the campaign was split into three parts. The first part was mainly taking opportunistic wars to grow my strength and dominate every other rival in the region. The second was generally just getting set up with the disaster and for Arabia formation. And the last was dominating everyone and just waiting for admin mana till I could finish the World Conquest. Yeah, it's not that deep. Now that you understand how the run went, let me say some things. This was the easiest modifier stacking run I could ever fucking imagine. Like, to compare it and contrast it, the only real tag where you can get 75 core creation cost without switching religion, without switching culture or anything else crazy is Novgorod into Russia. That barely gives you 75 core creation cost without the court or any further reforms. In this case, I got 90 core creation cost effortlessly. Like, it's crazy. The only other case I could think of is 5th Monarchist itself, but that is its own thing. On the topic of 5th Monarchist, let's compare it. They both give you a fuck ton of conquest modifiers, and they both make you hate every single other religion way more. But when it comes to other specifics, most of the things that the government reform of 5th Monarchist gives you can also be obtained somewhere from the Mushasha mission tree, so I don't count the stuff like the missionary strength, or anything like that as being similar per se. It's just that England is way more powerful and isn't really set to go on this path. But the biggest difference is that while 5th Monarchist you need to wait till Age of Absolutism, then trigger the Civil War and just wait till you get the event, you can fire the End Times basically day one if you just kill your main guy, which I kind of recommend, because when it comes to reducing the progress time on the disaster, End Times is way easier to manage and also way less annoying to manage. Because 5th Monarchist actually gives you plus 20 unrest, up to plus 20 unrest, which is insane. That's more than when you conquer a province and get separatism, by the way. Like, that's the equivalent of getting 40 separatism all the time on all your provinces without it decaying. It can be conquered with a conversion setup though, that's true. And the End Times, in the meantime, has super easy ways to get rid of the progress, which is Mainly conquering provinces and converting provinces, which both of these are insane. They make the disaster a non-issue even as it ramps up in difficulty. The Anthems is supposed to be more long-term than 5th Marquis as well, because it expects you to be playing for 100 plus years. While 5th Marquis tells you, lol, Mao, go conquer at least 600 provinces, 700 provinces or so, and if you don't do it, Mao, you explode. But neither give you any way to generate extra mana for any of your conquests, so both are very much bottlenecked by admin generation, which I did feel a lot in this run. Because this would have easily been a pre-1600, maybe even pre-1550, if I had raising or any sort of other way to gain a ton of extra admin points. And as to why I formed Arabia, rather than any other endgame tag formable, is because in Europa Expanded, Arabia has literally custom nation tier idea set. Siege ability province for score cost, missionary strength, core creation cost. Just give me a custom nation designer at this point. It's insane. And in missions there is another 10% province war score cost. Like, why? I had so much province war score cost in this run, in fact, especially during Age of Reformations, that I didn't even need to upgrade Kaaba or Malta past tier 1 to cap province war score cost. Speaking of the Arabia mission tree, there was one small quirk I had to avoid. There is this a new Caliphate mission, which involves sending every single Muslim nation in the world a request to join your denomination. As you can imagine, with the free Holy War Casus Belli which I've been relying on the entire fucking game, it's not very optimal to turn a ton of targets into your own religion so you cannot use that Holy War on them. And in my tests, most of the time they were accepting. As you can see, this presented a pretty big roadblock when it came to trying to justify forming Arabia rather than just staying Mushasha or even picking the vanilla Arabia tree over the EE one. You know what I did? You know what I did to avoid it? I used a seek decision. I clicked the mission, flipped seek immediately through the decision, then waited about 6, 7, 8 months, maybe up to a year, before I flipped back to Muslim through the Muslim capital decision. This made it so that most people would either reject flipping to Sikh, because yes, it relies on your current religion, or they would flip to Sikh, which is not a problem for me. I can just deck on Sikhs as well. This ended up with some funny stuff, like some people in West Africa and Kilwa especially turning Sikh, and actually being a pain in the ass for the rest of the run, because I couldn't convert the provinces there, as they've converted them to Sikh and gave it religious zeal. But Sikh Kilwa is actually a pretty funny screenshot, so here have it. Now I will go complain about another thing, the starting guy. The starting guy has this whole lore dump about him, and he starts as a zealot, pretty young, and he gives you this buff. Now, dear viewer, please tell me which of these buffs are actually useful for rapid starting conquests. If you said any of these, then you have been baited, and I feel very sorry for you. Because none of these are useful apart from arguably the minus 0.5 monthly piety. Like, I would rather prefer a 444, 544 or 644 rather than this starting guy, literally. Like, rather than any of these buffs. Fucking terrible, I think this is just terrible. It has been also advertised to me by Stiopa and a few others that this guy was very much your linchpin in the run, that he would help you get started, but no, I would literally just reject his buffs if I could, and just start the disaster immediately. Because none of these are important, none of these. Yeah, 15 ICA, that's great, that's fucking great, you just hire more fucking troops. It's not that hard. Literally, losing the missionary from the Mushasha idea set when I formed Arabia was more painful than losing this guy's buffs. That's how inconsequential they are. Another kind of funny thing about Arabia, yes I know I'm jumping around, shut up. is that Europa Expanded mission tree kinda wants you to go hard on cavalry. And I ended up doing that because there's a 5% movement speed buff if you have 20% of your army as cavalry. And even though I had 60 cavalry compatibility cav for most of the run, I literally felt zero difference between cav armies and full wave infantry armies. And it also ended up with some funny horse on horse on horse violence scenarios. So it allows me to use this dead meme. Thanks, Stiopa. In the run I also used a ton of vassals. I found a few small 2 province, 3 province or 1 province minor nations with reconquest available. Mainly Timurids though. Timurids were a huge vassal I had for most of the run because they ate most of my cores and they took a few decades to annex. They were pretty awesome actually. Then, of course, there was a few subject mission trees, which Europa Expanded adds, which weren't that useful, but I like the 100 admin mission that they give, which, you know, 100 admin in this kind of run is super nice. Then, at the end, I sadly had to basically release and kill every single vassal I had because I realized, oh my god, these are gonna take forever to annex and they're actually blocking my expansion. I had to at some point release like 5-6 vassals, then just kill them all. This is less a World Conquest thing and more of a just had me fucking laughing on the floor thing. But if you capture the Abbasid Caliph, a special mechanic which Europa Expanded adds, as Shia, you get this special option for triple manpower in religious force for 25 years, like why? I was actually so bewildered by this option, I straight up went to the Europa Expanded Discord and just cried about it there because oh wow. By the way, fun fact about that modifier, it only works against heathens, not heretics. But I still managed to exploit it as much as I could. Because wow, it was super nice for the 50 years I managed to get it by capturing the Abbasid Caliph twice. There were other funny moments as when I went to snipe a few provinces from the Europeans, I had to fight Spain, right? Look where Spain kept all their troops. Thanks for the free war, I guess, Lmal. Yeah, I got very lucky in a few parts of this run because they could have bogged me down for quite a few years if it wasn't for their insane competence.
Square hole.
That's all I can comment. Insane competence.
No,
yeah. Now, dear viewer, it's quiz time. What idea sets did I choose and in what order? I'll give you a second to think. Alright, time over. If you guessed the first two being Diplo admin, then of course that's the standard World Conquest setup. I cannot blame you for choosing those, but the third is contentious. You would think religious, right? But I already have strong conversion modifiers and a solid amount of tolerance of true faith. And even the very important Holy War CB. So it cannot be that. Humanist is also a good guess, but again, I stacked so much tolerance of true faith that I didn't really need that. So my third idea was offensive. Yes, offensive. That's how much of a luxury I had this run, because if you are able to choose offensive third in a World Conquest, which isn't a modifier stacking pre-1500, then you're just living the life. When you're able to go this much quality of life by the third idea set. Mwah. Beautiful. And if you wonder, my fourth was exploration, because I needed to get all the Pacific guys. Alright, time to give useful advice again. As you can see, I didn't really touch Europe till I had the rest of the world conquered. Why? Because Europe is a pain in the ass to conquer and I generally don't like it. So I choose to conquer Asia and Africa first, then focus on Europe when I have outscaled basically everyone. The biggest nation and by far in this run was Austria. They took so much admin to annex, I had to actually wait a few months after annexing them to core everything, and I got pretty rebel bombed. Oh yeah, speaking of that, I was getting rebel bombed the entire run because my missionaries, my 5 dear missionaries weren't fast enough to convert all my conquests fast enough. And this way I also learned that Japan, if you let them revolt endlessly, they will spawn 200k per revolt wave because of all the little states that exist within them. It's painful. It's painful. That's all I'm gonna say. It's fucking painful. That's a common theme in this run. Anything that was converted, perfectly stable all game. Anything that wasn't, was endlessly revolting. Another small luxurious part of having so much points for score cost handed to you for free is that you can just go Eco Hegemon. Eco Hegemon is just super nice for if you don't need the points for score cost or anything else from Mill Hegemon and cannot sustain Mill Hegemon otherwise. Which was the case in this run. I couldn't sustain Mill Hegemon, but I didn't need the points for score cost either, so I just went with the Eco Hegemon. That basically allowed me to outscale Europe for free with the 20 minimum autonomy in territories modifier. The last thing I will talk about is, ironically enough, the opener. Because I think the way I went around it, to make it rather consistent while giving you enough power to do stuff, is pretty nice, and if you want to do this run yourself, I would recommend doing this. I'm not like Leif, who when he did this Mushasha run, he just no balls decked on a jam day one and just stomped them somehow. I don't get it. I still don't get it. Like, of course I could do that too, but I would rather not. There are easier ways around. What I did is basically focus Mel, immediately go kill Hasa when they had no allies, because of course they don't have any allies. And instead of killing them fully, I vassalize them in one province. That's because they start with an actual combat fleet, while Homer starts with none. They just start with a trade fleet. So that and because the AI, even if disloyal, will still help you fight navally, I exploited this fact to declone Hormuz, kill any of their allies, then with that Hasa fleet, I stepped onto the little island and sieged it. And this way I basically killed one of my main potential rivals just day one. Or nearly day one, basically it's the second war. It's very handy because an Ajam Hormuz alliance is fucking painful to deal with, unimaginably painful. So if you can do this, then definitely do that, because it makes the run so much easier. And you also get an opportunity to rival Oman and get a free show strength on them, which is what I did. But there were a few mistakes I made, which is definitely that I didn't depth Renaissance fast enough, and that despite hating the starting guy, I never tried making him step down in favor of my heir early. I just waited for him to die, despite knowing that he has a average monarch lifespan modifier. I could have stated the disaster very earlier than in the 1480s, but I chose not to for some reason. Maybe because I thought that the disaster was way too hard early on, which it really isn't. It really isn't. Don't be like me and just start it as soon as you can if you're gonna do this. Overall, I rate the run pretty fun, even if I do have experience in World Conquest before this. I wouldn't recommend this as a first World Conquest experience, because I see some players fumble and 15-20 Austria revoke, much less this. Just, if you're gonna try this run, try to have fun with it, okay? Promise me that. Thank you for watching, by the way, and goodbye.